Hello and welcome to Valuechain News. I am Naomi Oleribe. First, the headlines. Delta commends Chevron Ishekiri Group for community growth. Experts blame CBN Naira defense oil price as external reserve slide. Climate change poses serious threat to Nigeria's huge oil production. Delta State government has commended Chevron Nigeria Limited joint venture and the Ishekiri Oil and Gas Producing Impacted Communities Development Committee for developing Ishekiri communities and the area. The State Ministry of Oil and Gas Commissioner Prince Emmanuel Anagbaduba gave the commendation yesterday at the 2021 Annual General Meeting of the IPCDC in Warri. Anagbaduba urged relevant stakeholders to create an enabling business environment for the development of the communities to enable oil and gas businesses thrive. Commissioner represented by Dr. Ikoro Efe of the Oil and Gas emphasized the importance of a free, secure environment, saying for us in government, we are caught between providing enabling business environments for oil and gas operations and also focusing on development in the communities. He commends Chevron for supporting the development and the IPCDC for executing so many developmental projects. A new study has revealed that Nigeria may face difficulty producing its huge oil and gas reserves. The study states that Africa's number 2 exporter, Nigeria, where reserves are concentrated around the Niger Delta River system, drought and flooding present threats. The report further stated, apart from Nigeria, much of the world's reserves of oil and gas is under threat from rising tides, storms, flood, and extreme temperatures caused by climate change. Access to the equivalent 600 billion barrels or 40% of the world's recoverable oil and gas reserves could be affected by the wild weather, with major producers Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Nigeria among the most vulnerable, the UK-based firm wrote in a research note. President Muhammadu Buhari has urged Nigerians to be ready to embrace a Nigerian economy that is sustained without crude oil. The President gave the advice when he received the immediate past executive director of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, Mr. Segun Awolowo, at the presidential villa. According to a statement by his special advisor on media and publicity, Mr. Femi Adesina, the president applauded Awolowo for using the NEPC to run the fortunes of Nigerian economy around nothing that he had to put our locally made products on the world map. The president said, "You have raised the profile of export in Nigeria and put our goods on the map internationally. Your efforts are highly commendable, and I am glad that the zero oil plan birthed by this administration is here to stay." The Executive Director, Nigerian Export Promotion Council (NEPC), Mr. Esra Yakusak, has stated that 36 small and medium enterprises (SMEs) exporters had been certified further to enhance the country's non-oil exports. He said the council is currently working to address the frequent rejection of Nigerian exports, especially by the European Union, amongst others. The Nigerian economy was largely driven by the non-oil sector, which accounted for 92.51% of GDP in the third quarter of the year, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. The oil economy contributed to 7.49% to growth. Angola will preside over the African Petroleum Producers Organization (APPO) in 2022, tasked with representing the oil and gas exploration countries, which are also dealing with the transition to renewable energies. At its 41st ministerial session held in Algeria by video conference, the APPO Council of Ministers unanimously elected Diamantino Pedro Azevedo, Minister of Petroleum Resources of Angola, as the president for 2022. Samuel Seydou Adambi, Minister of Water and Mines of Benin, will be the Vice President, while Chairman will be Celestin Enato, Executive Board Member for Benin. According to Apple, the meeting ended with a resolve to continue the exploitation of its member countries' huge oil and gas resources for the economic emancipation of its people while exploring the use of renewable energies. Top of the agenda of the ministerial discussion was the future of the oil and gas industry in Africa in the light of the global pursuit of energy transition, with ministers acknowledging the reality of climate change and expressing their support for any human efforts aimed at tackling its dangers. The session noted that the current approach to energy transition is unilateral in position, where the developed countries that have for over 100 years used fossil fuels to grow their economies and societies and have all along been aware of the dangers of the fossil fuel emission are now telling the world that fossil fuels are dangerous to mankind and that all should abandon it. Ministers noted that this aggressive drive for energy transition is coming at a time when African economies are poised to launch themselves into industrialization, which requires a lot of energy, whereas the economies of the developed countries now require less energy because their transformation from manufacturing to knowledge production and artificial intelligence. Economic experts have attributed the decline of Nigeria's external reserves to the Central Bank of Nigeria's intervention to stabilize the naira and the recent collapse of global oil prices, among other factors. The nation's external reserves fell by $440 million in 2 weeks from $41.15 billion at the start of this month, according to the latest data from the CBN. The experts said that the external reserves were mostly determined by the revenue from oil exports. The reserves, which dropped by $610 million in November from $41.83 billion on October 29, declined further to $40.71 billion as of December 15th. Reserves increased from $36.78 billion on September 30th to $41.83 billion as of October 29th. About 3% of oil prices fell on Monday as soaring coronavirus cases in Europe and the United States prompted investors concerned that new regulations to combat its spread could harm fuel demand. Brent crude futures were down 2.6% at $71.60 a barrel, while the U.S. West Texas Intermediate was down 3% at $68.77 a barrel. Trading sessions have the downward trend in oil prices correspond to the downward trend in S&P 500 and Nasdaq 100 E-mini futures. This is due to fears of impending restriction on economic activities because of the COVID-19 Omicron variant that is spreading worldwide. Several Europe countries were preparing for COVID-19 restrictions ahead of the Christmas and New Year holidays when the Netherlands went into lockdown on Sunday. As the Omicron variant raged across the world and is set to dominate the United States, U.S. health officials recommended that Americans get booster shots, wear masks, and exercise caution if they are traveling during the holiday season. For a second week in a row, U.S. energy companies added oil and natural gas rigs. According to Baker Hughes, the number of oil and gas drilling rigs rose by 3 in the week ending December 17th, the highest level since April 2020. In his closely watched report on Friday, Russia will export fewer barrels in 2022 than 2021, with exports and transits in oil slated for 56.05 million tons in the first quarter, according to a survey on Friday. State-backed refineries raising oil processing rates. China's diesel exports in November plunged 69% from a year ago due to fuel shortage caused by refineries prioritizing domestic supply. Before we end the news, here's a recap of our headlines. Delta commends Chevron, a Shekiri group, for community growth. Experts blame CBN Naira defense oil price as external reserve slide. Climate change poses serious threat to Nigeria's huge oil production. And that's Valuechain News. My name is Naomi Oleribe.